Have you ever felt like the world around you just stuttered? A split-second hitch in a stranger's stride, an object vanishing in an empty room, or that eerie feeling that you've lived through this exact morning hundreds of times before. We're used to brushing it off as exhaustion or a trick of the mind. But what if it's not fatigue? What if it's a bug in the code? The simulation theory has evolved far beyond a plot point for the Matrix or late-night kitchen talk. Today, world-class physicists and visionaries, from Neil deGrasse Tyson to Elon Musk, are seriously debating the possibility that our chances of being in base reality are 1 in billions. Today, we're going behind the scenes of this rendering. We'll break down the most chilling anomalies, scientific paradoxes, and historical glitches, ranking them in our simulation glitch tier list. From amusing coincidences to facts that will make you feel uneasy even closing your eyes. To keep our sanity intact, we need a system. Here are our tiers. D tier, NPC theories. Popular theories that are easily explained by psychology. Those moments when we all start acting like characters with bad AI. C tier, Easter eggs, bizarre historical rhymes and coincidences. It feels as if the developer decided to crack a joke or simply copy-pasted a chunk of an old script into a new one. B tier, rendering errors, glitches in perception. This is where the collective memory of entire nations begins to contradict official history. A tier, high ping. This is where things get serious. Physical and mathematical anomalies suggesting that our universe has finite limits to its computing power. S tier, system failure. The red pill. Smoking gun evidence that is impossible to explain with logic unless you admit we are inside a machine. Right now, take a second to check if everything around you is real, because by the end of this video, your confidence might be seriously shaken. Let's start with the most discussed, but honestly, the most overrated bug, the Mandela Effect. In case you're out of the loop, this is a phenomenon where thousands of people, completely unrelated to one another, remember events or details differently from how they are recorded in history. Some swear that Pikachu used to have a black tip on his tail. Others distinctly remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," even though the original line is actually, "No, I am your father." The name comes from Nelson Mandela. When he passed away in 2013, millions of people were stunned because they vividly remembered him dying in prison back in the 80s. It seems like the perfect proof that someone in the universe's admin panel accessed the database and did a sloppy job editing old files. But hold off on hitting that reset button just yet. Science has an explanation that's a bit more boring, but much more logical. Confabulation. You see, our brain isn't a hard drive recording video in 4K. It's more like a very lazy artist making quick sketches. When we try to remember something, the brain doesn't pull a file out of a folder. It reconstructs it from scratch, filling in the blanks with whatever seems logical. The brain thinks, okay, a rich old guy in a top hat, well, he must have a monocle, and it fills it in. And since we all grew up in the same culture, watching the same cartoons, Our brains make the same mistakes. It's a collective autocomplete of memory. The verdict. The world hasn't changed. It's our biological software throwing errors while reading data. Creepy? A little. But does it prove we're in a simulation? Unlikely. That's why the Mandela Effect goes straight to D tier. It's just a UI bug in our perception. But what if I told you there are glitches that can't be blamed on a bad memory? Let's move to C tier, where coincidences start looking like intentional Easter eggs. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that reality is eavesdropping on you? You learn a very rare word, let's say reminiscence or fractal, and suddenly, within the next 24 hours, it haunts you everywhere. In a newspaper headline, in a stranger's conversation, in an old movie. This is known as the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon or frequency illusion. In a simulated world, this would look like a lazy algorithm. The system loaded a new object into the cache and is now swapping it into every scene to save on RAM. But science has another name for it: selective attention. Every second, gigabytes of information bombard your senses. If your brain processed everything, it would simply overheat and burn out. That's why we have an importance filter. Before, the word fractal was just white noise to you. Your brain simply erased it. But as soon as you gave it meaning, the filter adjusted. Now you're seeing the code, not because there's more of it, but because you finally learned how to spot it. It's exactly like in GTA. The moment you get into a rare car, the city suddenly fills up with the exact same models. Is it optimization or just a mind game? It gets truly eerie when this involves events rather than just words. Those prophetic dreams or a phone call from someone you were just thinking about. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, a meaningful, non-causal coincidence. Mathematicians just shrug. With 8 billion people on the planet, the probability of impossible coincidences is 100%. Someone is bound to win that lottery every single day. Verdict. It's a thrilling feeling, like peeking behind the curtain. But statistics are a stubborn thing. For now, these look like very cleverly placed Easter eggs scattered across the map. C tier. Curious, but still explainable. But we're moving higher, to the level where the brain can no longer cope with the explanations. B tier, rendering errors that you can feel in your very bones. We're moving up to B tier. This is where coincidences end and pure physiology begins. The kind that sends a shiver down your spine. Deja vu. Almost everyone knows this feeling. You walk into a room, hear a random sound or a phrase, and suddenly, it hits you like an electric shock. You know exactly what's coming next. You're certain this script has already played out in your head, down to the smallest detail. If we were characters in a game, we'd say, "The server is lagging. I just caught the same data packet twice." And strangely enough, science almost agrees. The most logical theory suggests a synchronization error. Your eyes transmit information to both hemispheres of your brain. But sometimes there's a hitch in the neural wiring. One hemisphere receives the data a few milliseconds faster and immediately commits it to memory. When the signal reaches the second hemisphere a moment later, the brain sincerely believes It's an old memory. You aren't predicting the future. You're simply reading a file your brain saved a second ago without telling you. This also includes false awakenings. That's when you get up, brush your teeth, get dressed, only to actually open your eyes in bed a moment later. It's as if the system ran the morning script in the background before the main process had fully loaded. This sensation of broken time is one of the strongest arguments that our perception of reality is discrete. It consists of frames and data packets that can arrive with a delay. It feels like a classic server lag. The system can't keep up with the incoming stream of events in real time, and we start seeing the seams in the fabric of the universe. B tier. It's terrifying because it happens to your body, not just to a picture on the internet. But all of this is just the beginning. We're moving into the big leagues. A tier. The place where physics itself breaks down and mathematics starts screaming that we don't exist. Welcome to A tier. We call this level high ping. This is where logic and common sense surrender to the reality of quantum physics. Have you ever wondered why you're still alive? Statistically, every one of us has already survived dozens of life-threatening situations. But what if the simulation doesn't have a main menu option for a first-person player? There is a thought experiment known as quantum immortality. According to the many worlds interpretation, at the moment of every fatal threat, reality branches out. In one branch, you perish. Know your consciousness as the sole observer of this session simply cannot exist in a dead branch. Therefore, it automatically hops into the reality where you survived. To everyone else, you might die, but to yourself, you are immortal as long as there is at least one mathematical chance of survival. This explains those miraculous escapes where people survive plane crashes or falls from incredible heights. But that's not all. Why does the speed of light exist in our universe? Why can't information be transmitted instantaneously? Imagine the most powerful video game imaginable. Its processor has a clock speed. The speed of light is essentially the processor frequency of our reality. 300,000 kilometers per second is the physical limit of how fast the code can render the space in front of you. The simulation is simply incapable of processing data any faster. It is a system barrier built into the very hardware of our world.
They're everywhere! I can't stop them. Get out of my head!
Verdict. These aren't mind games anymore. These are physical constants that look suspiciously like server technical specifications. A tier. We're beginning to see the bars of our cage, but we have one level left. A place where matter vanishes if you aren't looking at it, where the code is fully exposed. Are you ready for S tier? The direct proof that our world is a fake. We've reached the summit. S tier. Direct proof that matter is merely an illusion created to conserve resources. Have you ever played a massive open world game? They use a technology called frustum culling. Trees, houses, and mountains behind your back don't exist in the computer's memory until you turn your head. Why render what no one sees? It's a waste of energy. In the early 20th century, physicists discovered something that still keeps scientists awake at night. the observer effect. At the quantum level, a particle behaves like a wave. It is smeared across space, as long as no one is watching. But the moment a device or a human records its position, it instantly collapses into a solid particle. This isn't just an oddity. This is literally the optimization logic of a game engine. The world remains in a state of undefined code until the player casts a gaze upon it. Reality is generated at the exact moment you perceive it, not a second sooner. When you piece it all together, the data transfer speed limit, quantum uncertainty, and bizarre memory glitches, the picture becomes terrifyingly clear. We are inside a system so perfect that it taught us to call its limitations the laws of physics. If you thought the observer effect was the limit, brace yourself. In the 2000s, theoretical physicist James Gates Jr., while working on the equations of superstring theory, discovered something impossible. Deep within the mathematics that describe the very fabric of our reality, he found computer code. And not just some abstract code, but specific algorithms used in modern web browsers to correct data transmission errors. They are called Hamming codes. Think about that. The fundamental laws of nature contain hard-coded mechanisms designed to protect information from corruption. Why would the universe, if it were natural, need error correction algorithms? This only makes sense in one scenario. If our reality is a data array that must be transmitted without loss, mathematics doesn't lie. We've found the developer comments embedded right inside the fabric of existence. This isn't just a glitch. It's the author's signature on their creation. Verdict: it's not a bug. It's the architecture. We live in a simulation that renders itself exclusively for us. If reality has an error correction system, it means someone anticipated those errors. S tier, direct detection of the software. S tier, game over. If we assume for a second that this tier list isn't just a collection of coincidences, but the technical manual for our world, a primary question arises: why? Every simulation is created with a purpose: to solve an equation, to entertain, or to model the past. And if our world is a game, then who is sitting on the other side of the screen? Who is our player? Or, even more terrifying, are we just a background process in someone's global experiment launched millions of years ago? We are used to thinking of ourselves as the masters of our own fate. But what happens if the player gets bored? What if, at some point, they decide the experiment is over and simply hit the quit button? Will the world turn into a black screen in a fraction of a second? Or will we simply cease to be? Perhaps the answer is closer than it seems. Some people in our history have pushed progress so fast and so inexplicably, it's as if they had access to the developer console and cheat codes. Tesla, Da Vinci, Ramanujan. Wherever you draw the line on this tier list, remember one thing: even if we are nothing more than lines of code in someone's experiment, it doesn't make your life any less significant. Because in any game, the most valuable thing is the player. What bug made you question reality? Tell your story in the comments. I'll read them all, especially the creepiest ones. And don't forget to hit the like button if you don't want your consciousness deleted in the next update. Subscribe to Moribund Room. This is where comfortable ignorance ends and the conscious code begins.